sókè pamọ́. Mountain back to Atlantic Ocean. Open me hills to country. To educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah. Focus on Liberia. For Liberia, Liberia. For Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday. From Monday to Sunday. It's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs. Hey. In diaspora. Current affairs. Hey. Reliable information. History. Ooh. Talking about culture. Yeah. Politics. Education. Entertainment. Yeah. Business. Sports. Advertisement. Articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our Sunday edition of On Point. Today is the 15th of the month, March the 15th. We are at the midpoint of the month. While we wait for our other panelists, I want to draw your attention to the different songs that just played. They are all significant to our well being. Obviously, we self-identified, we mentioned and we played the song, our jingle that says, this is Focus on Liberia. And that's what we are going to be doing today. We are going to be paying attention particularly to events, current event things that are happening as we speak. Then we listen to the classic, the Liberian AFL. If there's any time in our lives that we need to play that song, is now. The sovereignty of our nation, our well-being, the very existence of this nation demands that we play that song. And then we follow that with, we are one nation, one people. We couldn't say it any better than that song that was written way, way back before some of you were even born. The Republic of Liberia is under stress. Our very republic is under stress. The nation needs all Liberian, all hands on deck. So those songs that are played all have significant meanings to the Republic of Liberia. When you hear the AFL, it means more than just a song. It is meant to be patriotic. Let me welcome Honorable Namwe, Victor Namwe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Game. It's good to be with you. Happy Sunday. And let me welcome our audience as well. Thanks for joining us. Share the show. Let's have a productive and interactive conversation.
Today we are going to be talking just like our folks used to say when you were doing our days, we need to have a heart-to-heart talk. We need to sit around the table and discuss family issues. Oh, Liberia, do we have issues to talk about? The most important is the well-being of the Republic of Liberia as a state, as a nation, as a people. Our country was under attack. Just as the cruel war and the bandy war, where men and women took bare hands to stop the British, the French from invading our territory. It was done again this time in Lofa, in Foya, where ordinary people staring down the barrels of guns decided this is our land, we are one people, and we are not going to allow you to do this. It is our republic, and we have to defend it. If we are one people, why are we fighting? Do we have, are we all one people? Or it's just a cliche? We will discuss. And let's come to the home front. When we talk about culture, we have discussed that here ad nauseum. Domestic violence is part of our culture, whether you deny it or not, and we have to say it. We have to talk about it. Whether it is in your tribal setting, it's in your religious setting, we do have a problem. If your tribe allows women to be beaten, we have to talk about it, and we will talk about it. If your mosque, your imam, your pastor is in your tradition to beat your wives, then we have to talk about it. This is no holds bar. I just read from the New York Times, in Afghanistan, they just passed a law. It is now legally codified. You can beat your wife as long as you don't break a bone. It is a religious edict. How barbaric. We will talk about it. If you are a bastard man like I am and my brother Samuel Jackson, if you are there putting your hand on a woman, then we need to speak bastard about it. If you are an elderly man and you let young girls, you call it iron titty. And I have always talked to you about the consequences of iron titty. It is dangerous. You are basically a child molester. Let me welcome Victor Nangwe. Victor Nangwe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Gilman. It's good to be here. Yeah, these are pretty interesting times for Liberia. Domestic violence, I think, of any kind is abhorrent, and I think we all should do everything possible to discourage it. So this particular incident is very close to home. Many of us intersect with Sam Jackson several different ways. We all come from the progressive community. He comes from the Progressive Alliance of Liberia, of which we, affiliated and became part of the Progressive People's Party. He did leave to go and, join with the NPF and NPP, but notwithstanding, he's of the progressive community. He is also of the CMC, and so that way we intersect several ways. And so this is really concerning. But I think there is a reason why there is a legal process and a due process. I have listened and read a number of the comments, on social media and other, you know, um, other communication, outlets. I think there are two issues here that are trending. One, of course, the situation with his late wife, um, which is now under investigation, and then his behavior, including his utterances, especially after this incident. I think one is even more concerning that many people have tagged us about is his expression of um, having being part of a process that may have taken the life of the parents of a young fellow, I think, who was also standing around his, his gate, his fence. So all of these things are very concerning. Uh, but should we then conclude that is why the due process exists? Even if you go to court in this country and you admit, they still have to put you through the process, give you your due process, and let the legal process take its course. So yeah, we'll be watching. But like I said, this is a very difficult moment, in our country's, existence, for all of us. And I'm sure, you want to chime in on your own thoughts on that. But for whatever it is worth, deepest sympathies to the bereaved families, the Jackson family, and of course, this late lady's woman's family in South Africa. Um, this is a loss. No matter which way it goes, a life has left us, and so for that, I think we should also express our sympathies to all who are suffering this loss.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, do us a favor, share this show, send in your comment. Thank you very much. Emmanuel Bro, thank you very much for following as always. Your comments would be appreciated. When you just send us your take on the issue. Share this show. I'm talking about my sister here, Theodosia Hart. She said, iron titty is not only in Africa. I understand. The Epstein file, that is those crime of power, money, fame, and wealth. I understand that. But for the time being, we are discussing what is going on in Liberia, and we want to be very, very scoped about that. Rest in peace. My sincere condolences to the family. Flex Electronics, thank you very much. Activist Waka Repent Parker, I am following from the Intellectual Forum on Kerry Street. Thank you very much for tuning in. Keep sharing this show, saying in the comments. As we go along, this is one of the most disgusting things that I saw in this whole saga is this here. It says, the women wearing black, they are now marching again. We've been talking about death of so many women. We talk about a man who killed his wife in bombing. He kicked the woman in the stomach and the woman died. We talk about several women that were killed in Bong and Nima County by their husband with cutlasses. None of these people march. The last time I saw these people marching was when they were marching in the protection of Gloria Musu Scott. This is the same group. Now that it has touched home, it is either in single or for them, it's a class thing. If you are from Bong County or Nima County or Bapolu and your husband kills you, you will never see that march. But because this girl, this lady, may her soul rest in peace, nobody deserves to be killed. Now they were able to print T-shirts. In an instant. This is the hypocrisy that got Liberia to where it is today. We broadcast the death of women, the brutality of women. On the CDC campus, you saw what the police did to the women. Stripped a woman naked with all her clothes off And some of these same women were out there cheering. We have women who's market sellers. They were selling the market and police beat them. No march. We saw a man was on the show and many other show crying that his daughter was raped by official, allegedly by official from the Ministry of Youth. No march. So let's go to our first topic on our schedule here on the docket. No pun intended. The National Police takes custody of Sam Jackson on suspicion of his wife's death. Mr. Jackson also made startling revelation about the death of another Liberian named Mr. Salif. What does this say? Was he just speaking as a man traumatized? Was he divulging secrets? Was Sam Jackson even in Liberia during the Civil War? We will look into that so I can testify to, and we want to discuss. Honorable Namwe, let's go with Sam Jackson. Those of us who are, I guess in the media limelight, I think one of the number one rule of journalism is when you are giving the news, you do not want to be part of the news. You don't want to be part of the story. Sam Jackson is the story, Mr. Nambe.
Yeah. Look, I don't blame those who are calling for Sam's head. Sam has been bombastic. He's been braggadocious. He's been controversial, and I get it. But it's a free world. You have the right to express yourself. Yes, the particular utterances about, especially the one about taking someone's life, I think that is something that is concerning, as I said initially. Sam was in country during the reign of the People's Redemption Council, PRC. He was one of the early cabinet ministers appointed in the government by the PRC. I think he was a commerce, very young deputy minister. I still remember very well. So he was in the government, but he and Doe fell out. I think by 80, 81, end of 81, 80, end of 80, 81 or so. I think he had left the government. Now, the write-ups I've read about this Sirleaf gentleman in question appears that he may have disappeared around 1985. For some reason I don't remember that story, but I'm reading that he was abducted. Apparently, he was adopted from the Stephen Tobo estate where he lived. 1985 was during the presidency, the reign of the late President Samuel Kanyando. Those kinds of occurrences were commonplace. People were, summarily arrested, some even executed. There were reports all over the place. So it is possible this may have happened. But I think by 85, Samuel Jackson had already left the PRC government. And so, again, this is by his own admission. So I believe this is what an investigation is supposed to be about, to trace the story and try to get to the bottom of it. Yeah, he did. I heard the expression made by him on tape. Which we argue that he was in the moment, traumatized and all of that. Yes, but notwithstanding, I think every one of us we have a responsibility, to contain yourself and repress, your, most demonic urges. I think he could have, and there were people around him telling him to calm down because they knew that he was not in a good frame of mind. But yes, I heard the statement that he made, and I think he should be held responsible for it. I think he should be investigated for that. But what I don't think is appropriate is to toss aside the due process and simply by his admission, and declare him guilty. I think that's what the law says. He has to be given his due process, and I think the investigation we should allow the investigation to take its course. Um, the CMC had already issued a statement to this effect, uh, urging all parties concerned to cooperate with the law and calling for calm and advising all to cooperate with the investigation and let us wait to see, the outcome of the investigation. I think that's a prudent thing to do, in my opinion.
Excellent. And we are going to get to the domestic violence one, but let's take it. Let's take the Salif thing. Uh, I know when Jackson fell out with the PRC government, he left Liberia. I met him
Yeah,
personally.
correct.
I met him in 1984. Of all places, someplace in Brooklyn called 2016. It was a popular spot where all Liberians went.
Yes.
And Tom, will you introduce me to him? I remember he was driving I think a black or blue Mercedes Benz with Bassa One on it. And everybody came out and they were talking. He had told me that he told us that he was living on Long Island. And folks were laughing at him. What are you doing in Rhode Island? He said he had a home there, he had a boat and all that. And Tom, will you laugh and say, you buy something, you can't even swim, you can't buy a house, you got a boat. What the hell are you going to do with a boat? And people began to laugh. So I knew
Yeah.
he was lying like, bro.
No, he was not. And you're right, Jerome. Sorry to cut him, but it was almost to a person. It was the reality. When you fell out with the PRC government, you became almost a personally graduate. You had to practically flee the country. I know that for a fact because my friend and senior brother and mentor Deacon Carlo, you know him very well. He was a coordinator for the PRC. I think by the early 80s as well, he had falling out. He was closer to West End than he was to Doe.
Yeah.
He himself had falling out. He had to leave. He was also in New York. And so when Sam, I think Sam left the government toward the end of 80 or early 81 or something thereabout. I doubt that he was in Monrovia in 85. I don't know.
I
But
think,
let me agree with my friend here. Actual factual two, he's advising that we refer to the late Mrs. I think her nickname is Tony. I know she has a South African name, Tony Jackson. I agree with you. I think we should refer to her by name. So I take that correction as your factual. Thank you very much.
yes, yes. We're going to get to that. On the football field or games, you tell folks, I'm going to kill you. When I get you, I'm going to kill you. Say these things. I don't think it means that you can actually physically kill a person.
Correct.
You and somebody get into a conversation, you want to say something to the person that will hurt the person. And for Sam Jackson to say, we killed, this is Salih's son, I don't even know whether it's true. This is
Yeah.
Salih's son, we killed him. So when he said we, I don't know what he meant, but
And
we.
that is a very good point you're making again. When he said we, he's referring to the collective. Now, we could have, and if this thing happened around 85, the only we I could think of would have been the PRC
PRC,
government.
that's
And
correct.
but then he had left the PRC government.
Mhm.
So how he could have been a part of the we, that too confuses me.
No, it's not confusion because he has always claimed to be the Bassa woman, uh, low person, his father, Bassa man, who was also a butler or a cook for the Totmans and all that. So he has always said we as the regular people. So when he said we, he meant the
Okay.
cause.
Right.
The cause was for the people. So I understand why he's saying if
Correct.
he had said I kill him, then we would have said
Then that
something.
would have been correct.
But
Correct.
yes, we are. I mean, the amount of folks that were killed during that time, not even close to what happened during the Civil War, but if we were going by that, everybody would be guilty just by the association. But yes,
Right.
Jackson said that. But let's go to the meat here. Front Page Africa carried two stories. One says, the first one, Sam Jackson turned himself in. The first one was police IG Gregory Coleman declared Sam Jackson suspect in wife death, remains in detention as the probe continues. So it says here the Inspector General of the Liberian National Police has declared economist and political commentator Charles Samuel Jackson as suspect in the death of his wife. Police Inspector General Gregory O.W. Coleman told reporters late Saturday that Jackson, along with several relatives and staff members, will remain in detention at the police national headquarters while the investigation continues. And then this part two here says Sam Jackson turns himself in as police probe wife's death amid allegation of domestic abuse. And it says economist and political commentator Samuel Jackson had turned himself in to the Liberian National Police as investigators probe the circumstances surrounding the death of his wife, Toni Jackson. Mrs. Jackson died at the JFK Medical Center following brain surgery after she was discovered unconscious at the couple's home in Singa, Monrovia. Police earlier declared Jackson a person of interest, citing reports of a deep laceration on the victim's head and bruises observed on her body when officers responded to the incident. The case drew additional public attention after Rufus S. Berry II, a Liberian based in the United States, claimed that he contacted Liberian National Police, urging authorities to investigate the circumstances surrounding Mrs. Jackson's death, alleging that Jackson had a history of domestic violence against his wife. Jackson defends relationship. Speaking to reporters at his residence Saturday morning before surrendering to the police, Jackson described his relationship with his wife as loving, but acknowledged that disagreements are common in marriages. Don't couples fight? Isn't that routine? Especially when you are in a deep love relationship where there is jealousy and all kinds of things, Jackson said. We are like any moral or normal loving couple where we go to extreme love and sometimes extreme animosity. We are two human beings. When asked about the last disagreement between the couple, Jackson said it occurred more than 2 years ago. So here we are. This particular situation here is loaded. It has culture, it has class, it has power, it has international fervor, it has culture. So this is so thick. It will take us a little while to unpack this. But let's look at domestic violence in context. I'm going to start from the rear and then come to the society. Let's go to our traditional culture. And we are talking about tradition here. Because either in religion or in our social clubs, our societies, our secret societies, we cannot leave behind our culture, our individual cultures. Most of the tribal people in Liberia demeaning women Women are basic commodities. We beat our wives. We disgrace our wives. We treat them as subhuman beings. That's what we do in the villages. I'm going to come to the city later on. But let's talk about the traditional piece. Victor, you grew up in the village as I did. You saw some of these things, you heard about them. I know it for a fact because I have witnesses. So those of you who want to say, well, this is our poorer society, we can't bring everything outside. Oh, this is our sandy society. We can't do this. You can't belittle your culture. This is not the culture that we need to embrace at this point. Your take on our culture. We're starting from the village. We're gonna come because when
Yeah,
Michael used to speak to her, he used to talk about this, the rural push and the urban draw.
yeah.
What's happening in the city? City is
The the
drawing
the
everything for the different villages. Talk to me.
the clash of cultures. Yes. Look, I have evolved, and I mean, I grew up. My dad left early, but my mom, she, she had her brothers around my uncles. So they kind of raised me, and then I lived with my sister for a very long time. The husband, Georgia, he still lives up in East Orange, West Orange now in Newark area. A very gentle gentleman. He also helped raise me. But I grew up witnessing my elders, beating on their wives. My brother-in-law never did, but my uncles did, as did everyone else in the town. I mean, you come from the farm at night, around 6, 7, and you hear this heavy wailing, only to find that, some woman is being beaten. It was the only method of discipline that I think they knew then. But like I said, you evolve. In my early days, my wife and I, we had our fights too. And I thought it was the way to do it because that's how I was brought up. But then as you grow up and you go to school, um, oh god, so we're not gonna allow the law to take its course. We're not gonna let. But anyway, that's your that's your that's your opinion. I'm not gonna argue with you. You have a point there, but then as you grow up and you mature, you begin to learn about other societies, other options available to you, to communicate and dialogue and sort things out. Then you begin to understand that you know um, violence is not the best means to resolve issues. And then you even come to the Western world and you see how uh, you know issues are resolved here, and then you realize that in fact you had it upside down. Even back home, you beat our children. That's how I mean. My first few kids, that's how we discipline them. You go to school, the teacher beats you. But those things are not the tenets of a civilized of a culture of an educated community. Right now, we can say, in spite of our backwardness, well, Liberia is a country with a lot of educated people. So, like I said, we have evolved. We've come to realize. I mean, let's be honest. We know over the past maybe 15 or so years that the gender-based violence has become a thing in Liberia. But before then, even in Monrovia, with people beat on their spouses. So yes, we grew up we are of a certain upbringing, and so it's some of those things were inculcated into us when we were young. But as you grow up, you have to begin to 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 wash those out of your brain. I can't find a better word, but you begin to eschew those methods, and then you realize that in fact they're wrong. Civilized nations around the world. Those are unacceptable. The same as a New Yorker is an Atlanta boy. He knows that. So I find it hard to believe. And I know you want to pass it on to Thomas, but let me just say this quickly. I read some of the accounts, including the account about Rupert Berry and all of these people. The thing about sexual violence, usually when it is happening, there are footprints, right? There are either a police intervention, there is either some kind of medical record to document. So like I said again, I think we should let the investigation take its course. Hopefully, it will uncover these things. I saw some of the photos. I read Mr. Berry's account of what he knew of he himself. If this is true, he has some culpability to bear in this matter because why didn't he report this matter? So these are all questions that I think the investigation will untangle and unpack for us. But like I said again, it is unfortunate because a life has left us. No matter where and how this investigation proceeds, that late Mrs. Thank you again, actual factual, Mrs. Tony Jackson. It's not going to come back to us. That is the most unfortunate thing about all of this.
Excellent, excellent. Let me welcome Mr. Thomas B. Kind. I know you got that thing in your ear. You try to tune me out. I understand. You want to tune me out. Wear your earplug. Welcome to the show, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Gaiman.
Yeah, I am. I am bringing you on real quick here because one of the things that we need to talk about. I know we all got some education in the social sciences. So we will talk about culture a little bit, then we'll come to the city and talk about the city slickers. Are you a city slicker? Were you born in Monrovia? Okay. So we all came to the city, right? So that's fine. I know my sister say here, what we are talking about, everything in Liberia is selective. I understand, and I take it seriously. Theodosia, you are right. And we'll get to that. But welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mr. Gaiman. Good evening, Mr. Nangwe, and hi to all of our listeners.
It's good to see you, Mr. Cannon.
Great, guys. Please keep sending your comments in. We want to be reading them and responding to them. Honorable Cannon, we have actually two main topics here that are so loaded we may only maybe exhaust one if we are lucky. One that we are talking about has something to do with somebody that we all related to here, which is Sam Jackson. Has always been in the public sphere that we are on social media, in the print press, you name it, he's been there. So, like we were talking, right? If you want to be part of the giving the news thing, but you don't want to be part of the news. Now we are all now part of the news because someone that they consider us talking heads, one of the talking heads, is in trouble. But let's look at the cultural aspect of who we are as people, whether we have evolved, whether maybe education, exposure to the outside world, outside of our immediate surroundings, have tamed some of the things we do. But the domestic violence that we are seeing in our culture, I just read an article here. The article says, just like a Greek story here, it has everything. It has jealousy, it has age, it has class, it has gender, it has societal ills, all wrapped in one. Sam Jackson and his wife, he says, in their marriage, they went extreme in love, extremely in love, and extremely violent. And he said it's normal in regular society. I don't know how true that is, but that's what he says. We have one person dead. It is pathetic. Your take on this whole issue.
Um, it's it's really a sad situation. First, to see a well-educated lady, because this is a relationship that has been in the press for I think over 2 or 3 years now, since Samuel Jackson got into this relationship and took the lady to Liberia. It has always been in the press, whether they are having lunch, whether they are having dinner, whether they are traveling to Ghana, whether they are traveling to the US. He's always talking about this lady. So I think this made this relationship to be widely known across the country. And because he's always out there, he has political views also. There's a lot of uh, attacks that comes, and sometimes when he posts something, and then people will come and say, "Oh, you marry your daughter," and all of that. So, and he will come and respond fondly. But one of the things he shared about the lady is that she's well educated. I think she was a lawyer, and he often said that some of the business dealings that he goes through, she's the one that actually does advise him. So to lose that kind of person, I mean, as all of us here on this platform know how difficult it is to go to school and learn, and then the reward that you get from there is only when you complete and then you go to work and you get the return. So, like I said, this is really, really sad to see her go with all of that skills and knowledge that she has. The other sad part of it is to hear that, I mean, this is related to maybe some form of gender based violence and all of that, like you explained. So I think this is something that needs to be investigated. I think my complication about the whole thing is that even if there has been violence in the past, how would the violence be linked to the death is something that requires professional investigation. And with the capacity back home, it's either with the police. I don't know if they are going to bring in some medical practitioners to be able to do some test on her body to be able to see what led to the death. So they will have to put the politics and everything aside because this is someone that has loud political voice in the country. Get all of these things aside. I'm seeing all of the pictures on social media and some of the text messages. In this age and time, I feel a bit reluctant to just be able to see things that are digital to believe them because you now have artificial intelligence that can create anything for you.
Yeah.
So the police will have to make sure that they get the noise out of the data that they are getting to be able to do a professional investigation and get to the bottom of this. But like we keep discussing, these are the reasons why we need institutions in the country to be able to deal with gender-based violence. Because it's just a piece of everything that institutions that are responsible to work on gender can do. There are a lot of complications, a lot of other issues that tie to this. So I think this is something that comes to challenge the institutions that we have in the country. And it has another dimension. She's now a Liberian national. She's from South Africa. We don't know how her government is going to respond. They have an embassy in Monrovia. I don't know how involved they are with the investigation that is ongoing. But the government will have to take this seriously and do a professional piece of job to get to the bottom of this.
Great. Ladies and gentlemen, you are just joining the show. Share this show, send in your comments. But Mr. Nambi, let's look at this thing, and it also has something to do with culture. Remember, everything I'm talking about has some cultural activity attached to it. I was in Liberia and I spoke to several groups, and I keep saying that they would laugh at me. Guys, if you are not married, you're gonna get married. Stay within your age range. Few years up down is fine. Stay within your age range. And this brings me to Sam Jackson saying jealousy was involved. And I said the same thing when our brother from the CDC, Mr. Doe, beat brutalized his girlfriend a couple of years ago. It was also in the news. The disadvantage when you marry somebody so young, both of you have very little in common. She is going to hang out with her peers, people who look sound in age range. If you are Sam Jackson, you say they took out your left seat.
Not funny. Not funny at all. Not funny.
If you are going in there as 50, if you go in as a 50% male, and then you marry somebody 20 years your junior, and then you say jealousy is involved, how ironic are
Yeah.
like you didn't see this
Uh,
coming.
let me say this, Jerome. You're right. I think my son has been reminding me of the two fatal mistakes that he thinks are drowning Sam into. The one is what you're pointing out. The age difference is a problem. One, they come from two different eras. What is he going to talk to her about? He will want to relive his progressive struggle in his Staten Island and all that stuff there, and she doesn't know anything about that. So they have nothing to talk about. Two, she comes from a different country. She doesn't, who does she know about life? So that is a problem because companionship in these matters a lot. All of that is therapeutic. You have to to sit with your partner, and reminisce and have some laughs. I mean, my wife and I, our best times is when we're driving, 2-3 hours. We just go back to our days on cutting down together and all the stuff we've come through over the years. We have a good laugh. All of that is therapeutic. I don't know if Sam had that opportunity, to do that. Two, um, his mouth. I think Sam is 73 years old. He acts
Yeah.
like a kid. He's fighting with Mo Ali and this kid, obviously, in some chat room, and I think they're goading him about his qualification, whether he's a real city planner or whatever it is. And then he leaves the chat room and comes on Facebook to talk about what they talked about in the chat room, and all of that. I think he shouldn't be doing that. But Sam Jackson is Sam Jackson. He always tell you he's his own man. He doesn't listen to any advice. So I think those are two strikes against him. Now, about what you're talking about, his ailment. He is a prostate cancer, survivor. So am I. I think I'm coming on to 3 years now. Almost all black people of a certain age, my prostate got enlarged. And for those who may not know, the prostate gland, the urethra, the glands, they squeeze your urethra, that tube make you go to the bathroom. So there are two of them on either side of, on both sides of it. When they get enlarged, they squeeze the tube, and that's how you go to the bathroom so often. So most of the time when they're becoming cancerous, and I hear him talk about monitoring his PSA count. The PSA count is an indicator. It's supposed to be less than 4. But sometimes, mine decided monitoring mine from 2016. There were times we go up to 7, sometimes 9, and so it reaches a certain point after all of the observation, then they decide to treat it. So there are two options you have, either to do a radiation where they go in and burn it, or they take it out. Now, either way, what it does is it removes that regulator around the urethra. So you got to retrain that urethra. It takes time. And during that time, your sexual function and all of that, they're interfered with. Now, if you have a woman of a certain age, young people, they're active, Sam 70-something-year-old. Maybe a part of thing is to have a little whiskey. I know I hear him talk about, a little honey or something and sleep. Maybe the girl wants to go to the club. Sam is tired, So all of these things he's dealing with, I think they created a lot of discomfort between the two. And I don't know. I mean, him and I, we don't hang out, so I don't know what he was going through. But when I listen to him talk, I can understand some of what he's talking about. So all of these things they tend to produce anger. So maybe he prefers staying at home and having his henny and watching TV. Maybe the late wife, prefer going out with her friend. She's young, she got energy, she wants to go and hang out, and obviously there will be points of disagreement there. But then he will come out and write all these things on Facebook. I guess that was his way of relieving, his stress and all of that. But all of these are footprints that he's left behind that people are now picking up and piecing together. All of these renting he's been doing on Facebook, F all of y'all, I'm gonna bear, I don't give a F about all of y'all, I'm rich, I got houses on this content, so all of these things now are coming to bear on him. And I think that's a mistake. I wish the lawyer would advise him to climb up and sit still. Now, look at the other man. Look at the other man.
I mean, you coming on. We talk about women business. You coming on our show. She tell you.
I coming from Iran, man. What you want me to do? The airlines, they're not running correctly from Iran.
The woman said you should call her tonight so you can talk. You see,
so you can talk. But welcome, Dr. Budi. So yeah, back to you, Jerome. So I think Sam, if I
want to put it like how.
What's what we got today?
I don't know what's going on with you. These are young people, Jerome. The young people, they hard to deal with. So Sam need to shut up. You understand me? And stop all this non-talking and all of that. He's underestimating this case, and I think that's a problem. That's a mistake. He just think because I think he may believe that he'll be exonerated. He might. I think he has a fighting chance out of this. Although I don't know about the other one, about the killing. But if this woman has had this history, back in the States and all of that, I'm sure there will be medical records and all of that might be able to help him out. I understand his ex-wives are also willing to come out and state their side of the story of the Sam Jackson that they knew. All of that might help him. But he can be helped if he's not shutting up and cussing out the whole world, including Gregory Coleman, who was going to conduct the investigation. Now, I'm not saying Coleman is not professional, but when you keep cussing the man, he might play based on you and get upset with you and decide to say, okay, you know what? I was in a man away for 6 months. I know that we're going to jump on that one. So let me put it back.
No, but the thing is, Gregory Coleman is not professional, right? Because we know that the way that he handled this whole investigation as it relates to the arson or alleged arson at the Capitol, where some of the suspects alleged that they were tortured, and he investigated his own police force and concluded that there was no torture, right? That's not a professional way of handling allegations like those. You should get an independent body to do the investigation, right? You can't investigate yourself and then conclude. So no, I don't think he's professional. Sorry for interjecting.
Well, the private investigators, the independent investigators came out and affirmed that there were torture. So we got that. But let me welcome Abu Dukle. How you doing, Chief? Long time.
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you, guys. It's nice seeing you guys again. Dr. Budi, Mr. Victor Nangwe,
and Mr.
Thomas.
Thomas is there.
Now, welcome, Chief. It's been a minute, man. Good to have you back.
Yeah.
Let me go to Mr. Budi. Mr. Budi, in 2001, I met with my uncle, the late Tom Woyu, and he was hanging around with this young girl. And I joked to him, I said, as old as you are, what are you doing with somebody the age of your daughter? And it began as fun, but I kept pushing the button. He got upset with me because I meant to say you are 30 years younger than your wife or your girlfriend. This is trouble. So here we are, Dr. Budi. The jealousy that Sam Jackson is talking about, he said we go to extreme love and extreme whatever violence or whatever that is. He said we go to both extreme. Could this have happened when you talk about the other extreme, besides the love, the other extreme of jealousy, could this be what's happening here? That if I don't have you, nobody else will have you, or all of these things? You're not listening to me. I'm the husband, and from what I saw, what I'm hearing, I mean, it is a constant thing. You old man, you sit down in the chair, you go to sleep, the girl going to the club, she come out, you be up. You take all this. I mean, not what happened, but he's talking about jealousy. He said jealousy is involved, and that extreme love and jealousy stuff. Or your take on some of these things?
I didn't know that Mr. Nangbe dabbled in legal matters as well, because he was very spot on when he said Sam Jackson needs to shut up, right? Because usually when you're involved in these kind of serious investigations, your lawyer will always tell you close your mouth, right? That's why you have that right to remain silent, right? And I think he needs to exercise the right to remain silent, right? But this is not about Mr. Jackson. I think this is about, no, I think this is squarely about the young lady who has lost her life. And getting to the bottom of it is very important. Justice has to be served. And some of the things that he is saying suggests that the allegations that people are leveling against him might be founded, right? And the reason I say that is, if you're saying that the relationship is tumultuous, and basically you guys go from one end to the other, so one minute you guys are all cuddly and stuff like that, and the next minute there are punches and plates flying and stuff like that, that is not something that gives anyone any courage. Not courage, courage is not the word, but give anyone any comfort in terms of the violence that this lady experienced, and how she died, based on the pictures I've seen, right? Based on the pictures I've seen, because again, this is still an allegation that he did it. We don't even know that if it is actually a homicide, so the police have to investigate. Even though it seems like a homicide, but we're not investigators. We're not detectives, not investigators. So we need to let the police do their job. And then if they find probable cause that they need to then pass it on to a prosecutor to take it forward, they will do. He's not helping his case, if he has a case. And but I want to touch on one thing before I go. Uh, this highlights again, if, right, if he did do what people think he did, right, and this was as a result of domestic violence, then it highlights a problem in our society that we need to deal with, right? When people are running around here and sitting at the opening of the Supreme Court and making laws, when you're a judge is not supposed to make laws. There is nowhere in our Constitution where it says cussing, profanity, vulgarity, or whatever you call it, is a crime on our laws. There's nowhere where it says that. If you are sitting as the Chief Justice of the Republic of Liberia and telling us that profanity and using vulgar language is criminal, that's making law. That's not your job. Instead of doing that, why don't you make sure that your courts try men across Liberia and maybe women who have been accused of domestic abuse, and make sure that justice is served so that individuals know that you're not supposed to do these things. That is what the Supreme Court and the justices should be focused on, than telling someone that, oh, if you use profanity. That Mr. Game and his president in America cuss all the time. They refer to African countries as asshole countries. They tell people that they are maggots and rats. They need to go back to Haiti, right? You don't see Supreme Court of the United States calling those people in and holding them in contempt because they use those kind of vulgar language. Instead of the Supreme Court of Liberia trying to fix the judiciary and deal with the backlog, right, of individuals who have been accused of rape, of heinous crimes against our women, and make sure that we're sending out clear messages to men and maybe women across the country that domestic violence is wrong. No, that man causing Bennett they're concerned about, right? Instead of dealing with real life and death situations. Because until we start to send clear messages, the reason why you see certain issues in Western countries are not as they are in some of our countries is because there are clear deterrents. If you do it, you get punished. people know that if I do this thing, I'm going to get punished. They would think twice before they do it. But no, our Supreme Court don't want to do that. They want to focus on nonsense that have nothing to do with life and death of Liberian people. And that's where they need to be focusing on. Trying these cases, making sure that their courts are dealing with these cases at the ground level and sending a message to men and some women that domestic abuse is wrong. And if you do it in our society, we will deal with you with the full force of the law. We will send you to where you need to go. And people like Sam Jackson, if he did what people think he did, will think twice before they start to do something as stupid as this.
Great. Guys, we have issues. Let me go to Abu. Abu, we are talking about culture. We talk about religion. We talk about class. We're talking about wealth. We're talking about fame. Oh, this is a Greek tragedy. We are talking about, but let's start. We started with our culture, right? Those of us that were born in the interior, beating your wife was normal. I'm not saying it's prevalent now, but during our days when we were growing up, it was normal. And I still see it practiced in many segments of our society. Not because you come from, not because you live in single now means that the vestiges of those evils that grew up actually become part. It's in your sin. You just get out. And we've seen this here, a man. He's an older man with a younger woman. All of those things he's talking about, jealousy and all that, domestic violence. He said, "Well, present in his home. How do we cultivate this relationship or our society to kind of get away from sudden dispute by fist or flying chairs?" Mr. Dukley, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
You know, Mr. Gaiman, what you saw happen in the case of Mr. Samuel Jackson is just it's just a snippet of what is prevalent in our society, what is prevalent in Liberia. And I have sometime I spoke about this domestic violence in another setting on a different forum. And you see, one of the aspects that people don't pay attention to, look, this violence, domestic violence, is condoned by our culture, is condoned by the public itself, in that they've come to normalize these kind of violence. But I would add that there's also an aspect of mental health. And I've always spoken about this mental health undertone relative to after the war and how things have happened. And I'm saying this, I get to survey a lot of the Liberian social media landscape. And I came across a video, a clip where some police officers went somewhere to arrest some, I don't know if they were drug dealers, whatever, and they grabbed one female, and the police officer was just yanking this suspect in her face. People are surrounding her, clapping, as if nothing wrong. I mean, it's normal. And so when what you saw Samuel Jackson, it's obvious and clear that this is a domestic violence situation that probably got out of hand or it ended up in death. But if you speculate that this is something that have been going on in this relationship, I don't think you would be far off. With that said, Mr. Sam Jackson is still entitled to being innocent until proven guilty. That is right under the law. But we need to address this from the cultural standpoint of our community or our societies, because when you talk about these things in Liberia, it sounds so foreign that they label you as a white person or why not, and all these kind of labels, because it is so ingrained in us, it's so normalized to the point where it's not a big deal. If a child does something, just yank them. That's the only way to discipline them if they don't listen. And when you hear this friend of Sam Jackson says, "Oh, he said, she's frisky. I want to teach her a lesson." That's how. It's not only just Sam Jackson saying that. That's how everybody does it in Liberia. I would teach her a lesson. I would teach him a lesson. So we have to address this domestic violence from the core, from the very bottom to where or up to the top. And addressing this, it has to do with reforming our penal code, our laws, our justice system, the police, and all that. We are talking about Sam Jackson, but there are many, many other such cases that we never heard of in a public domain, as we are hearing about Sam Jackson. But I wasn't surprised to have seen or heard what happened. Like I said, just because it ended up in the death of this young lady and people caught on because of that tragedy. She didn't deserve to die. She didn't deserve to be treated that way if true, all the bruises. And you know, so far, despite we saying he is entitled to uh, 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 being innocent until proven guilty, he himself is not helping himself. You don't have to be a lawyer to know that you don't have to say anything to anyone. And if you remember, somebody was asking him about this situation. What did he say? He said, "Oh, what, couples don't have a fight?" What kind of a dumb answer is that? Couple don't have a fight. So are you implying that you guys were having a fight? I mean, he just did not help himself when this whole thing broke out. So I'm viewing this from what is it, from family therapy perspective, you know, where you have couples who have had marital issues or family issue, whatever it is, and these issues have never been addressed because in our society, it's not common for couples to seek help to deal with their marital issues, and because these concepts are very foreign to us. We say that white people were dealing with things. It's not, but you know, in my practice here, when I see couples, white couples, and you listen to them, they tell you what the issues are. I scratch my head because these are things that we would make fun of in my country, in our culture. But once you separate them and you talk to them individually before you bring them together, you realize, one, there is a communication breakdown. And this communication breakdown has led to each side digging in. And so these are all things that we don't consider to be issues. And in dealing with our own cultural deficiencies, if you want to call it that, in addressing domestic violence, it has to be a holistic approach where you highlight these behaviors, and I mean, you don't have to be told that hating on somebody is wrong, but in our society, the way we view these things, we view them as normal. What is a big deal? Oh, she slapped you, or you lucky, but it's not right. And so we need to start from the very, very beginning, in our nursery, in our kindergarten, you name it, coming up to our justice system and the police, because the police themselves, they are out of control. In our communities, you go play football, something happens, the next thing you know, punches have been thrown because nobody is deterred. Come on. I mean, um, uh, in our practice here, we are told as a practitioner, doctors, nurses, social workers, if you suspect an abuse in anything in your line of work, you are under obligation to report it to the police. It is not your place to determine the veracity of what you are being told, if it's true or not. That's none of your business. But you must report that what is it? whatever that has been told to you. We call it. I just forgot the term to use here, but uh, uh, I, I mean, you can see even a medical doctor, if he or she suspect that one of her patients is being abused, he is under obligation to report it to the authority to determine whether what he or she has reported is true or not. And if it's true, they will follow it. They will deal with it. So
Yes,
that's meant to safeguard, to protect everybody. I mean,
that's
in my
correct.
practice, if somebody reveals something to me and it's within that guideline, I'm under obligation to report it to the system. Because what happened is you didn't report it, that person goes and does something horrendous, and they say, "Oh, but you told his therapy or whatever." What are you going to say? So, in other words, I'm talking about accountability here. People need to be accountable for their behavior. People, people need to take charge of their behavior. And yeah, like I said, Samuel Jackson's situation is just it's everywhere. We just happen to come across it now because somebody has lost their life, and we need to stop normalizing this behavior. They are not right. They are not proper, and they should be dealt with accordingly.
Thank you. Uh, let me go to Mr. Connor here. Mr. Connor, let's talk about, because most of the crime, the rape and it has a lot to do with power, crime of power. Someone has power over somebody, whether it is financially, whether it is spiritually. It's a place of power. Somebody trying to impose power on somebody. Now we're looking at Mr. Jackson here. Um, let's talk about the power dynamics in such a relationship.
Thank you. I think the issue of power is, especially when it comes to gender-based violence, is very important. I mean, before I get to the power issue, I just want to highlight that since the Civil War ended, Liberia has been doing a lot of work to be able to address the issue of gender issues in the country so that we can avoid situations like this. And one institution that really laid the foundation for gender work in the country, even though we had an institutional framework as far back as 2003 and 2004, when Charles Taylor established the Ministry of Gender and Development, was UNMIL. When UNMIL was in the country, they had a specific focus on gender-based violence and work on gender issues. And then by 2008, 2009, UN Women, which is the specialized arm of the UN that works on gender equality issues, opened their office in Liberia. So the UN system, in addition to other development partners, have been doing a lot to be able to help Liberia have policy framework, legal framework, institutional framework to be able to address the issue of gender inequality. So around 2013, 2014, the Ministry of Gender and Development was reformed to what we have now as the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection. And in that reform, they took social protection from social welfare from the Ministry of Health and brought it to Gender Ministry. In 2009, Liberia developed her first national gender policy that actually laid out the different areas or the different interventions that Liberia was going to have. We have also passed other laws. We have a law on the inheritance law was reversed before now in Liberia. When your father died or when the father died in the family, the property would just revert to the boys and not the girls. But that has now been reversed. So now the inheritance right is also with women. So with all of the reform that we have done, GBV, gender-based violence, is still prevalent in the country, which is something we continuously need to work on. So for instance, in 2021, there were over 2,000 GBV cases, actually 2,075. And this has to do with rape, It has to do with physical violence. It has to do with denial of resources. For instance, some people born children and they just leave it with the mother. They go by their business, which is also a gender-based violence because you are denying that child with a lot of rights and a lot of services that they need to have. 2022, it was 1,565. 2023, over 3,204 GBV cases documented. This is what the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection is collecting and recording on the books that they have. So this does not include all of the ones that are now reported in the villages, maybe in Bapolo, in Lofa, Maryland, and other places. And I think it was in 2023 that we had that demonstration where people demonstrated against the high increase in GBV cases. And then President Weah declared GBV as a national emergency. And then in 2024, the data from January to September was around 2024 cases. So I'm just bringing all of this to show that even though we now have a ministry responsible for this, in the police force, we have the Women and Children Protection Unit that is meant to take care of these cases, but we still have a huge number of cases because of the cultural issues that you were talking about. In some instances, it's religious. Some people believe within some religion that, okay, women have to be submissive, and therefore if they are not submissive, I'm going to beat them. But in the end, it all comes to the power dynamics that you asked the question about, especially with regards to some issue with physical violence. In many instances, there is economic inequality between men and women. Sometimes the man is the one that is working back home and the woman is not working. So the man comes from work and you've not cooked the food and he left food money and he will beat you. There are also these gender stereotypes. One of it is that men beat women because they want to show love. That if you don't beat women, it means you don't love them. So it's a combination of cultural factors, it's a combination of economic factors, it's a combination of religious factors that then accumulate into all of the number of GBV cases that we keep having. There are women that are losing their eyes. They beat them and then they burst one of their eyes. There are women that are losing their arms. They beat them, they break one of their hands. But it all comes back to this power relationship, economic power. Women, in many instances, traditionally they were left back. They did not go to school. It is quite recently that they have started to go to school. And so when a man has all of the income at home, he then starts to exercise power over the woman. Even when it comes to our decision-making processes in our governance system. Look at our legislature, for instance. In the Senate, I think you have 2 women to 28 men. In the lower house, you have, I think, 7 or 6. So in our sub-region right now, we are the lowest in terms of women participation, women political participation. We are at 11% nationally. When Sierra Leone, I think it's at 32% because in 2021, they passed a women empowerment law. So until you have these frameworks in place that can address this inequality, these power dynamics, we are going to continue to have gender-based violence in the country. It will continue to increase. And then you will see the kind of unfortunate situation that we are discussing today because we have not addressed the cultural factors that are there.
Wow. Okay, I know Victor is on the line. Let me go to Dr. Booty. Let's talk about domestic violence. He just laid it out. Most people think domestic violence is the kinetics, beating your wife or this, but let's look at the economic, the real deal here is the economic factor, right? Where the man has all the power. He has the job, he has the money, he determines when you get lapa, when you get something to go out. Christmas time, what you wear all depends on the man. He gets home, you're not home when he expects you home, he deals with you. All of these things, this is where the real power lies. Dr. Booty, are you stuck? Yeah, Dr. Booty is, I think, having internet problem in Great Britain. Abdul, we talk about of all the inequalities, the economic piece is number one. Because like in the interior or in the other religious culture, they want the woman to stay home, be a homemaker, right? You stay home. Stay home, you got no financial income, you got nothing. So you depend on the husband to buy you food or buy all of that. Isn't that a major disparity?
Actually, economics is probably the core behind most of these violence in the home. But I want you to remember, there are different types of violence. You know, in a relationship. I mean, domestic violence. It could be emotional. It could be physical. It could be mental, and it could be sexual. So uh, let's get that clear. And so most of in the case of what you just described now, that's right on. Economics is the bottom line of all of these. I mean, not specifically in this particular case, but I mean, speaking about Liberia as a whole, yes. Um, most of the men who have the financial means, just because they have the financial means, and these women are dependent on them, they feel that um, they have the leverage. They can do whatever they want because the threat is always going to be they can withhold financial support. They can withhold, their support from these women. And so, but again, for me, with all that said, the fact that we have come to a place where, as a society, we've come to normalize these things. I mean, um, I don't know, and in this particular incident, I'm speculating. I don't have a hard fact to substantiate that. But how many times a girl, a woman, will go to the police station because her husband slapped her or her boyfriend slapped her? I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's very rare and seldom because like somebody was saying, I don't know if it was Thomas. Some people, some of the girls, I heard this before that, if their boyfriend, their men don't beat them, then these men don't love them. I mean, what kind of a twisted way of thinking? But I can't say it doesn't happen, or I can't say some people don't think that way. But again, it goes back to our orientation relative to domestic violence. So not all of the violence is physical. There are people who are emotionally abused in a relationship. There are people who are mentally abused in a relationship. And so economics is the center, is the front and center of all of this in Liberia. I mean, it reminds me of a lady that
Duke, hold on 1 minute. I'll come right back to you. Your name and where you calling from?
This is Aliyu Kamara calling from London County, Liberia. I am sorry that I'm shooting, but I really have to jump in here for a second.
Dr. Budi, your friend.
I know my friend and brother.
Go ahead.
Mr. Gilman and the rest of the guys on the panel, I want to say hi, and it has been a wonderful show so far. You see, first of all, my condolences to the bereaved lady's family. I was really appalled when I got the message. And from everything that I see go on with Mr. Jackson, I think something is pushing him to put himself out. I think he's confessing in many ways that anyone can count. If we're on the freeway and it's our right of way, let's stay on the freeway. All of these things, and let me say thanks to Thomas for being academical about his expositions on this matter. But I think we're leaving the topic. The topic here is an individual allegedly brutalizing his wife. Something that no one should do. To just say, for Abu to just say, we normalize it in Liberia. this is not fair to Liberian men as well. I've been married to my wife for over 6 years, never one day lay my hands on her, and I'm the sole provider. And there are hundreds of Liberian men here in Liberia. As I'm speaking to you, if you go National Police headquarters, you will see men being lined up for domestic violence against their wives or fiancés. They're not taking it very lightly. And as someone who have worked abroad in West Africa, I will tell you that Liberian men are more civilized than you guys back. Just because we are able to come up with the stuff and actually announce the stuff. Other societies are not announcing it like that. Nigeria, for example, they have the highest rate when it comes to killing their wives in West Africa. You'll find that in Liberia, a few men do it in Liberia, and I'm not trying to defend men here, but we just put all Liberian men under the thing. Oh, it's that's what we do. We just take it. Look, no matter what we do, Liberia is Africa, and one of the reasons why marriages are not let us for years. It is different dynamics. It is a different culture. I think people are getting aware of the fact that your wife can stay at home and still be your equal in many respects because she is also contributing. So we have to look at the children, all bringing how they grow up and who is there to nourish them and to raise them right. If all of us are chasing money, what about the children? Why are American kids becoming wayward? Because both parents are not in the home. So let us think twice than to just put every Liberian man under the bus and say it's normalized in Liberia. It is not normalized in Liberia. People are going to jail every day for it. I just wanted to clarify that.
Thank you very much.
Can I just say something quickly, Mr.
Yes,
Dugle?
yes, come in. Yes.
Mr. Dugle, you will continue, but let me just say something. I think the reason why Aliu Kamara, and it's nice to hear your voice, my brother. I miss you. You need to come back on the show. The reason why Thomas, myself, and others have said, Mr. Ducle and myself have said that these things are normalized is because we've all seen it more times than we need to see it when we were growing up. We all see it more times than we need to see it now. And it looks like we will see it more times. So even if we're doing it 10 times and Nigerians are doing it, and I don't believe that is the case, but Nigerians are doing it 50 times, 10 times is still more than it should be done. Yep. Right? That's the point we're trying to make. 5 times is still more. Right? That's the point we're trying to make. So we're not saying that all Liberian men are bad, but I remember growing up in Liberia where some of the older men in my family felt that they had to do this because they could do it and get away with it, right? And obviously, when Mr. Kamara and Mr. Duple ends, I want to talk about the economic side as well because there's another perspective to it. I hope I can add on.
Thank you, Mr. Ducle. Go ahead and land.
Yeah, and so is that angle where a lot of these abuses find their way because you see women, they say she goes to find a job and this person will say you have to sleep with me before I hire you, or I mean things that are supposed to be part of your normal function at a job has now become a tool to exploit job seekers who are female, clearly taking advantage of their vulnerability, knowing that you are in a position where you can decide to hire. Or so yes, economics is front and center of this domestic violence, because if the man is the breadwinner of the household, obviously he will have his expectation. And again, like I said, people usually do what they saw growing up. I mean, there are not many of us who on this particular panel who can say we never saw any of our family member being abused when we're growing up. With that said, I mean, we might have been kids, but does that mean it was right? No. So I just want to end up with the point Dr. Budi was just saying. Even two is too many. We shouldn't. We should not be. And so when we say that this habit, this behavior is prevalent, it's just, even if it's just one, it shouldn't be happening. But more crucially, I think in my understanding of the way things are done in Liberia, nobody is deterred from anything, because he or she knows, if he or she does something or breaks the law, if he or she has the necessary connection, and she can get away, or he can get away with it, and so I don't know where we're going to start from, but we got to start from somewhere.
Okay. Um, Victor, I've seen a lot of women say, I went to the police, and the police themselves, they are culturally grounded in this thing. They will say, "Oh man, your wife, your husband slapped you one time. You want to come in and start trouble. You go home and discuss it." So the women, most of the women that I have talked to, the reason they don't go to the police is the police themselves are grounded in this kind of behavior, and they will tell you, go and talk with your wife. The police are supposed to be there for the women, actually not there for them. So some of them decide, listen, my husband beat me. If I go to the police, they will do nothing. So
Yeah, yeah.
there's a deterrent. Your take on it, and then I want to go to Victor. After you, I want to go to Mr. Khan. Mr. Khan, let's talk about
I need to come in on it too.
I want you to be pondering, because I know he has access to data. What you be pondering before country is the economic piece, right? These were two well successful people. One is a lawyer, one is also successful in his line. So let's talk about how that happened. But Victor, the police, they are not a trusted partner according to most of the women.
Yeah, I think most of it is lack of training. I think most instances, these they don't know what to do. Are they willfully ignoring what the law says? I don't believe so. I think most of the time this is where we fall short. We put all these flowery statement procedures in the book, but we don't, we don't devote too much time to training. Most of the time when our guys are put in the moment, the little training that they ever got deserts them. So I think it has to be continuous training. They have to be trained into these things. They have to know what to do,
But
what the procedure is, how
Mr.
to report this.
Mr.
Yeah.
Nami, let me push back a little bit, because the gender minister herself said most of the cases when they want to pursue it legally, the folks would say we take it home and discuss it family way, and then if the person don't come forward to press charges, there's nothing they can do. So
Right.
you can't say it's not training. It is it is a backward culture.
Yeah, I still maintain. I think enough training is not being provided. Are the people being trained? I mean, maybe they are, but I think there's not sufficient training provided. Also, the support. Most of these people, I think they're stemming by the lack of support, lack of logistics, how to treat these matters. Am I making excuses for them? No, I'm not. But I just think if these people are given sufficient training, understand the consequences, the implications of these matters, I think they'll do a better job. Most of the time, our people, we too often we put everything to report writing, and these tedious, monotonous, mundane little things. Somebody got to write a 10-page report and take a statement here and take a statement. I think they should simplify the procedure and make it easier and set the stages down at stage one. When the reporting is done within this amount of time, this is what you're supposed to do. If you find XYZ, this is how you escalate it. When you escalate it, this is who you call, this is what you should do, this is what you document, this is what you look for. Again, I'm not sounding flip or I'm not sounding smart, but I just think it is a lot of training that has to be put into this. Let people really understand the implication, the trauma that this thing causes to the weaker sex. And let's not forget, men are also violated in these matters, not just women. There's some men who also experience spousal abuse. So I know women might be getting getting the lion's share of it, but
I'm looking behind you before I see the baseball bat. I'm looking.
no, I'm talking freely. you know, I'm talking freely, but I will pass it back. I agree. I think much needs to be done. I absolutely agree with that. But I think our people need to. I think they need to continuously be trained. Be given the
Victor,
support.
Victor, before I go to Mr. Carter here, if you are my Samater or my Joa or my Glebo, and you go, every time you take your complaint to the police, like you said, they want you to take write a statement. Okay,
Right.
they start intimidating you. Say write a statement, knowing that a woman is not lettered, she can't
Exactly.
read, she can't write. So you
There
are
you go.
intimidating her, and then you say, "Well, saying you can't write it, you just go home and resolve it." So
Yeah.
that's another battle. Let me go to Mr. Khan. Mr. Khan, let's talk about the power play here in this particular case. I know this is an isolated case where the victim is a lawyer, according to what Sam Jackson said. I'm not sure. I didn't see any credential qualifying her as a lawyer, but he says she's a lawyer. I guess she's a corporate lawyer. He himself is well to do. And in this case, we still experience domestic violence. The grievance of them all leading to somebody's death, if that's the case.
Yeah, this is very important. To allude, I don't think we are getting off topic. We're just trying to discuss the broader context within which this case falls. Like Mr. Nangbe said from the beginning, this case is already going through investigation. And we are not part of the police to be able to determine if, like I said from the beginning, whether this lady actually died because of domestic violence. So I'm trying as much as possible not to have an opinion on an issue that is going under investigation. But it is part of the broader context of gender equality or gender inequality in the country. That's where I think the discussion is situated. So we are not discussing the broader context by not following the topic. Also, we have to mention that we've made a lot of progress on the issue of gender equality in the country. If you look at the Human Development Report that comes out and all of that, Liberia is actually doing well. The legal framework that we are putting in place, the institutional frameworks that we are putting in place, we are doing a lot to be able to address. Also, a lot of work has gone into awareness. You have a lot of civil society organizations that focus only on women issues, on gender issues. You have a whole institution called Wongoso, Women NGO Secretariat, which brings together all of the women in the country. You have the Female Lawyers Association that actually go ahead to be able to provide legal support for prosecution of some of these cases. But yet, with everything that is happening, the cases are still going up. That's exactly what we are saying. So in 2021, for instance, we had over 3,000 cases. How many cases got on the docket in the judiciary? 202 out of 3,202. And the cases that were tried in 2026 were 36. Cases that were won, 31. Acquittal, 3. Hung verdict, that is, they don't know whether the person was right or wrong, it was 2. So even though you have a lot of cases, but they are finding it difficult to get the cases to the judiciary. And even when you get it to the judiciary, sometimes when it comes to rape, for instance, then DNA and others come in, the police don't have the capacity to be able to do it. So some of the cases are taking a lot of time. So this is just something we are highlighting for the country to be able to pay attention to it. On the issue of gender inequality, the best way to address it is to economically empower women. Because when women are empowered, many of their rights will fall in place. But the issue of women economic empowerment is a double-edged sword. Because at the early stages of women economic empowerment, it can even increase domestic violence. Because like we're saying from the beginning, here is a woman who's in the home, and the man is the only one that does everything, that pays the school fees, that buys for the children uniform and everything. That woman will follow every rule in that household. But once that woman gets a piece of job and she goes to job now, she's no longer asking the man for laptop money. Then the issue of complaint will start coming. Where are you getting the money from? Why are you coming to work late? Why is it that my food is now on the table at the time it used to be there? So even though women economic empowerment can help to address gender inequality, at that early stage, when that woman starts to make money, it can create friction in the home. And it comes to the point that you are raising that this woman is a highly educated woman, she's a lawyer and all of that. Even that can create tension in the home. Because traditionally, men want to be the head of the home. But when the woman is empowered, she challenges that authority and then it becomes a problem. So this is why addressing the issue of gender-based violence is very delicate. It has to be done in such a way that we can be able to address all of the cultural issues, the gender stereotypes, and it's a long-term project to be able to address it. That's why after 20 years from the end of the Civil War, we still have these issues coming up.
Wow. Dr. Booty, we are talking about a situation where, like he says, a double SO, right? Okay, the woman now, she has achieved the top of her career. She's now a lawyer. And Sam Jackson is at where he is, well respected, well renowned. And you think between both of them, they could now reason together. And it can happen at that level. Then what's about my who are just a regular farmer? I mean, you think the higher attainment should actually mitigate some of these issues, but in this particular case, and this is an isolated case, in this particular case, that's not the case.
I think let me push back a little bit on Mr.
Please.
Kane. Right? I think when we talk about progress being made in Liberia, the data I'm looking at doesn't confirm that. So the fact that we're writing laws like he suggested, if these laws are not being implemented, which it suggests that we're not, then we're not really making progress, right? If the women NGOs and like he said they're meeting together, then we're not really making progress because it's the men that are perpetrating domestic abuse. But if the women just coming together, how is that changing the mindset of men? How is it helping men to educate men that they shouldn't be doing what they're doing? So if a bunch of women come and sit in a room and say, oh, domestic violence is bad, men are not there. They're not educating those men. So how are we making progress on that front? When you talk about the Women Lawyers Association, they're more reactive than proactive. They're waiting when issues happen, then they go and advocate. So no, we're not making progress. I just look at data, a couple of data, one on the prevalence across Africa, and I was surprised that Sierra Leone is top of the list with 61% prevalence of domestic abuse amongst I can send the articles around if people want to have a read of it on top of that list, but Liberia is at 55%, right? If the highest is 60 and we're at 55, where's the progress, right? How are we making progress when in 2022 the prevalence of domestic abuse against women of age reproductive age is 55%, right? So obviously this goes to Mr. Aliyu Kamara as well. So the issue here is, look, this is what I want to focus on. One of the disappointments I had, because when it comes to gender, it's like I've been a gender justice advocate for many years. When it comes to gender justice, and Mr. Kane, I will agree with you on this, there are a lot of structural issues that we need to deal with, right? There's not one block. There are many blocks that we need to put in place, and one day cannot do all of those things, right? And when we look at when President Sirleaf was president of Liberia before, I think she missed an opportunity, right, to really put in place educational programs where young boys, right, in schools, in universities, are taught that domestic abuse is wrong. It's good to have the laws on the book. That's very good. Having the laws on the book is good. It's good to have the Women and Children Department at the Liberian National Police. That's great. But the guys who are perpetrating these abuses are men, mostly, right? Not all the time, but mostly men. So the way you target is you try to change their mindset when they're young, right? So you go into schools, Madam said, those are the kind of things we expected you to put in place. By now, which is about 16 years later, those group of abusers like now adults, would have had a different mindset by now, because all through high school into university, there were programs to tell them, don't be woman, don't be woman, don't be woman, don't be woman. And it's becoming ingrained in them. That's how you structurally deal with one aspect of it. It's not all of it, but that's just one aspect of it, right? And then we look at the economic side of it, right? When you look at the people in Liberia that have the most money, men in politics, these are the people who are taking advantage of young girls, right? Sleeping with them and stuff around here. And so they're not interested in making.
Excuse me, young boys too.
Yeah.
I know that my era there. Let me focus on the women's side. That
No,
way you
no,
can
we're talking about abuse now. We're talking about abuse.
When we talk about abuse against women, we're talking about abuse against women because it was a woman who was abused. So let me focus. You can do the abuse against men. These guys don't have any incentive to economically empower women because they know if they keep our young women impoverished, they can take advantage of them. They can sleep with them for peanuts. And so having just 2 women in the legislature, in the Senate, I think, and then I don't know, about 7 or so in the House of Representatives, tells you where we are. So we're not making progress. If our national legislature, the upper house have 2 women, and the lower house have about 7, I think, that's not progress, Mr. Cannon. So for you to say we're making progress, we're not. The data is not telling me that we're making progress. Now, financially, Mr. Jackson also believes, again, if he did do this, that because he has money, I think Mr. Dukley touched on this, he can get away with it, right? He can basically pay the right people to let things go. He can undermine things here. He can do some propaganda there and get away with this thing. And finally, Mr. Gaiman, on the economic side of things, when the the gender minister comes out and say what she's saying, again, it's tied to the economic side of things because those families, depending on that husband, not just to take care of their daughter who's in his house, but to take care of some of her siblings that's still living at home. He send little rest to the family every now and again. And those families, I've seen in rural spaces when I've been in those spaces where the girl will have the courage to leave the house where she's been abused, go back to her parents' house. Her parents will send her back, saying, "Go back, like her husband, go back there." Why? Because they're benefiting economically as well from these men. So again, I agree with Mr. Khan on this. Look, we need to step back as a country. We need to take a very holistic look at it because there are a lot of interconnected factors that we need to deal with by creating jobs, by educating young men, by promoting women empowerment, not just through our laws, not just through writing papers and documents, but actively going out there and saying, look, no, when you come into government as a president, right? Ministerial levels, assistant ministerial levels, director levels, demonstrate to the Liberian people that, look, we want to promote women and gender equality in this country. So we're going to appoint genders equally so that when you walk into a ministry and you're talking to assistant ministers, maybe 40% of them at least will be women. So that these people can see that and give. And then again, for me, I believe educating people is important. And we need to start at an early age. That would be the program I would advocate for. And this might be the time that we call for that kind of action. That let's start telling our young boys at a very young age that you do not, I don't care how vexed she may you, punch the wall, my man. If you really vexed for true, that wall there, punch it. And you can back, you and the wall your backs, but don't punch her, right? Back the wall. When you punch the wall one time, your head you, and do that stupid thing again next time. But don't, and we need to indoctrinate our boys to understand that, and girls as well. Tell the girls to be bigger. Don't be beating the boys then too. Because now, if you tell the boys not to beat them again and start beating the boys, then we got to look at the reverse of it. Both genders, at a young age, we need to educate both genders that violence is not the way to deal with things.
Great. Mr. Cannon, this going election, the vice president and the senator from Nima County were using abuse the women as a cultural text when he says, during my father's time or during this XYZ, a woman will not even come outside to compete with me, a man. We shouldn't. This is what these were the exact word he used against Edith Gunglo when she was running in Nimba, when the vice president and the senator, they were in a forum when she said women should not be in a public space contesting against a man. There is something intrinsically wrong according to their thinking. These are the things we are talking about at the highest level. Power. It's a kind of.
Yeah. So when I say we've made progress, we have all of the problems as a country in terms of gender issues. We are now where we were 20 years ago. There's a lot of changes that have taken place. Like I spoke earlier about the inheritance law, and that goes back to economics. Even in the land rights law that we discussed a couple of weeks ago, there are gender issues there that needed to be addressed, and they were included there. In the AFL, for instance, they had this regulation that if you are a female and you were in the armed forces of Liberia, if you got pregnant, then you have to delist yourself. That means you have to leave the army. After many years of work, they've now removed that. Today, you can be in the armed forces of Liberia as a female, you can get pregnant, they can give you leave, you go and give birth, and then you can come back. In terms of awareness, NGOs, civil society organizations, they've educated people in that country on gender issues, on human rights issues, on the rights of women. So I'm not only saying Wangoso is an organization that is just sitting. These people are advocating for changes in policies, they're advocating for changes in laws, they're advocating for passing specific laws that can be able to deal with this issue of gender-based violence. But the constraints are institutional. For instance, for many years after the Civil War, women have been advocating for us to pass a law that gives them a quota, 30% representation in the House. But how are you going to get that law passed in the House when you have majority men? So every time they take the law, it gets defeated. And therefore, they have to struggle by themselves to get elected. Economically, they don't already have the foundation. We were talking about the police initially. If you look at the leadership in the police, many of the top people in the police at the leadership level, they are men. Because there was a study we were doing in Liberia on, there was a project that was supported by some donors called Nothing for Us Without Us. The participation of women in security sector institutions. And one of the things that we found in that study was that women that go to the security sector institutions are women who have already thought that they have failed in life. So they go to school, they want to go and work in the banking sector, they want to go and work in other sectors. When they think that all of those options don't work, then they say, okay, let me go and join the police, or let me go and join the DEA. These are people who have already given up in life. How do you expect these people who have low motivation to be able to climb up the ladder to become police boss? Since the Civil War ended, how many females have we had how many females have we had occupying the position that Gregory Coma is in? Can anyone remember?
I think one.
One. So all of these structures are occupied by men, and therefore these constraints are in place. When it comes to election, let me come to your question. They don't have the resources. Let's take the case of Botokane in Bapolo. When the woman won the election, there was a conflict on some of the boxes. She could not even have access to those places. They put the country devil also to be able to push her far away. If she did not have strong support from her brothers and the rest of the community members, she would have been knocked off that election. And on the issue of Nimba County, there are studies that we have done traditionally. There are people in the villages who believe that women should not head men. So even when it comes to these electoral positions, those positions where people need to be elected, those traditional values are so strong in the rural areas where when a woman fights and says, I want to be a representative, there are people who feel that, no, go and sit down, let the men occupy this position. It's even worse on the traditional side. The paramount chief, the clan chief and all of that, you will find very few women that are participating or that are heading, that are taking on these positions because of these stereotypes that we have, because of the what? The beliefs that we have. But over the years, it's gradually changing. Some projects even work specifically with women. Dr. Budi was talking about boys. They have clubs in the different schools, anti-GBV clubs and all of that. These things are happening. And that's why I say we are taking gradual steps. But have we solved the problem? No, we've not solved it. And I think quite recently they even had to work on a policy that is related to addressing the issue of violence against women in elections because it became alarming. It's not only in Nimba County where those beliefs are, it wasn't only Botokane. It was also the case of Ure daughter in District 15.
Yeah, Talia Ure.
Talia Ure, they almost burned her and they destroyed her vehicle simply because she's a female. So I think these are inherent challenges that women are facing. And that's why I think for me, we need a specific institutional framework to be able to deal with the issue of gender inequality. And we shouldn't just leave it to all the institutions across the country. It might be very difficult for them to deal with it.
Excellent, excellent. Ladies and gentlemen, it is 6:04. We have gone a little bit over our time here, but this subject is so important that we decided to spend a whole day on it because the more we talk about it, the more enlightened we are. And then at some point, we have to talk about our secret society, the poorer society, the other societies where people go down before they address these issues because these people believe clearly in the indication of the gender. These people have it written in their custom, in their culture, that there are gender roles, there are division between the men. Things that women can do, and this is only women's job. We have to go deeper than what we are talking about here, because there are some folks from the different cultural societies, secret society, that wouldn't want to change what they perceive as the role of women and role of men. So we got our work cut out. But Dr. Budi,
can I just say something? Can I say something quickly?
Yes, go ahead.
Seconds, I think.
Go ahead.
Just to Mr. Kane's point, I do take that, and I was just doing quick research. I think what we need to do in Liberia, what we need to advocate for, is a constitutional reform, right? So we need to rewrite our constitution, because that's what Rwanda did in 1994, and the 30% was put in the constitution. So it's India, because I was wondering why Rwanda is doing so well. So I wanted to check quickly, and it's in their constitution that 30% of leadership roles across government should be for women, even though their parliament has 66% women representation. But we need to then consider a constitutional amendment or something like that puts that in. Now, obviously, I know Mr. Khan saying that the men will not vote for it, but if we put it to a referendum, then they don't have a choice, as far as I know.
So, Dr. Budi, how have Rwanda dealt with the 30%? Is it through election or through appointment? Because if it's appointment, then the leadership has to have the courage to do that. If it's election, then who elected 30%? How?
Well, that's a good question. I can't answer that. But I know that what I've just read is that the Constitution mandates that government appointments and elections in the parliament must have minimum 30% women.
Dr.
The appointment would be the president, but I'm sure the parliament, I don't know. Maybe Mr. Kane has a better,
Yeah, Mr. Kane, go ahead.
So the start point for Rwanda was, when they went through the civil conflict, the first the genocide. The first body of lawmakers that they had. Many of the men were staying in the bush behind rebel line. Maybe they were in Banana, they were in other places. So they were lucky in the sense that first batch of lawmakers that they had majority women. So that's how they managed to pass these reforms through. So it sets a quota system. So when you go to election, there are specific seats, only women can compete for those seats. So regardless of what happens, women will get elected. So since the genocide ended, and they managed to get that through the constitution, which was passed in the legislature, That quota system is already there. And then women can then compete with men in the non-quota seats. So that's why after 20 to 25 years, they are already at 66%. And they happen to have just replicated that across the government. So on the election side, you have more women. On the other side, so Rwanda is actually the role model for women political participation on the continent.
Wow.
In the world,
Ladies,
actually. In
we
the
are
world.
we are learning something new. We have to listen. In America here, there's something they call the best practice, right? If somebody have done it and it worked, why go and reinvent another wheel? Just use that model and see if it can work in your country. Let me go to Mr. Namwe here, Honorable Namwe. We are talking about you got sisters, you got mothers, you got all of these. Those all who got girls. We are very, 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 very keen on this issue. So, in your closing, how do we address?
Well, I mean, I will go to what I think Dr. Booty and Mr. Kanye are saying. Um, the Constitution has to be very clear on this, but there are, I think, nominal suggestions that political parties should reserve 30% of their candidacy. I think women groups in Liberia and all of us, we should sue political. I think people should use the legal process. Even those of us in political parties, I think we need to press for this. We need to push for this. The gender equity, all of us sitting here, we have to live it. I think we have to model it at all times. How many times in Liberia has a gentleman being appointed to an office and you say, you know what, Mr. President, thanks, but no thanks. I want you to give this position to a female. I mean, I think Mrs. Shirley, she tried. First finance minister, I think female. First director of police, Muna Kwekwe, you know. So I think it's on all of us. We have this whole gender equity here, I think we're paying too much lip service to it. I think it falls on all of us. I mean, even here in the States, there's still some of us, even a woman come from work, then you sit down, she got to go in the kitchen and prepare your food. That's not how it's done here. These people here, they take days, today you are in the kitchen, tomorrow the woman is, this is something we have to practice. And I think we were talking about its enforcement in Liberia. I think it's complicated because for the most part it's theoretical. It's not really being enforced in practice. So I think there's a constitutional change requirement, but I think there's also a change in attitude that is also required on all of us. All of us, as I'm saying, yeah, even you and I, the CMC we're in, I know we're pushing, but yeah, we have to push for our sisters, because why? We're not better than them. We're just different. They're women and men. That's all. And no, studies have indicated they're smarter than us. They bring better results to the table when they're given the opportunity. So I think we all need to, rally around again. I will close by, extending my sympathies again to the Jackson family for the loss of Mrs. Tony Jackson. Very unfortunate. I hope the investigation will help us bring closure to this. As the CMC has indicated, we urge Mr. Jackson. I'm glad he has turned himself in. He's been cooperating with the police now, even though I understand he's the police for the duration of the weekend. But I hope when the process resumes on Tuesday, he'll be as cooperative as he should be so that we can all, bring a closure to this matter. But thank you all very much. It's been a great show.
Excellent. And talking about women empowerment, my company hired 28. I got 28 employees, 2 men, 26 women, 25 women. Guys, we have 2 men and myself 3. So 25 to 3. So Dr. Booty, I'm doing very well. I'm doing better than your government. I'm doing better than your Liberia. I'm doing better than Great Britain. I'm doing better than the United States. I'm the best. I'm number uno. Dr. Booty, your closing.
Well, the fact that you employ 25 women does not mean that they have decision-making powers in the organization.
They do.
Right?
They do.
So
they do.
That's something that we have to understand.
No,
Right?
let me stop you there. Let me stop you. You see, the man don't want to give me credit. He don't want to give me credit for nothing. He don't want to give me no credit. He ain't giving me no credit, nothing.
when you touch a nerve, people start to get loud, right? So I clearly touched a nerve, right? So I'll leave it at that. But I think, and this is the point I'll pick, and that's why I like sometimes following Mr. Nangwe, because sometimes even though sometimes last week he threw me off with a lot of the things that he said, and I was wondering whether it was the real Mr. Nangwe or Mr. Game Emperor, an AI version of him here. But today, I like what he threw, the ball he threw, and I'm going to hit it out of the park, right? When he talked about suing political parties, because I think I've read, and people don't quote me on this, but I think I read in the act of the National Elections Commission or something like that, that political parties should have 30% female representation. I think I read. I'm not 100%. I think when he mentioned that, I've read that somewhere before. And if
Let me
that
just
is the
throw
case,
this in. Let me throw in,
sorry,
as you conclude. Let me throw this in.
please, yeah, please.
So it is when the gender equality bill that they wanted to pass did not pass through. They said we were going to address it through electoral reforms. And that's where they put in the law, in the regulations that they passed, that political parties should endeavor. So it's like they are now compared to meet the 30%. They said they should
Yes.
endeavor. So
Yes.
that's what they normally do. They will have out of 30 senatorial candidates, they will put 2. When you ask them, they say we are endeavoring. So
Someone is right.
that's
They make it nominal. It's not binding.
yeah, it's
It's a
not
suggestion.
binding.
Yeah.
No, okay. Thank you. I know I read it. I know I read the 30% somewhere, and thank you for reminding me where I did. Now, that is a problem because at the end of the day, I don't like Thomas for this because the ball that Mr. Nangwe threw me, I was about to hit up the park. You just came and took that ball away because I was going to say the Female Lawyers Association should then use that law to start suing political parties, and that's how we make progress. But now you took my ball away. I don't even know how I will close, right? So I don't like it today. But no, on a serious note, right? I believe, as all of us have said on the show, there isn't a one hat fits all situation, right? There are many moving parts to the domestic violence issue that we see in Liberia. And to solve this, we need to sit down and, like Mr. Nangbe said, instead of playing lip service to this, and think about it deeply. Like, okay, Mr. Gibbons said he got 26 people working in his institution that are women. What decision making roles do these women have? Are they able to sign off on things without consulting him first?
Yeah.
Because what's the point
Not
having
just
to
making coffee, not just bringing the coffee, right?
yeah, and it's and photocopying paper just so they can say we got women in the place, right? Can they sign if a woman in his institution made a decision in his absence? Will he come by and start shouting, "Oh, who gave you the authority to do that?" Or will he come by and say, "Oh, I trust your judgment, and yeah, that's fine. Let's see how it goes," right? We don't know, and obviously we need to do some research to find out. But that what we need as a country to sit back and look at a holistic way of addressing this thing from the grassroots, right? So when you talk, Mr. Gaiman, about president, I don't like how much she did. When you say, oh, well, she appointed the first female police director and appointed the finance minister as a woman. Look, those are older women who are going towards retirement anyway. How many young women did President Sirleaf appoint at the grassroots level? You know, the assistant ministers, the directors, and those kind of people who are way down here. Where when you go into a district and the district education officer is a woman, it then opens up the people in that district with the mindset that a woman is not supposed to be leading. Oh, wait, a woman can lead. Most of the people in the districts across the country don't see the finance minister. They don't even know what the police director look like. But if they see the police commander in their district, and that's how you set policies that look, we want to make sure that every county, 20% of the district or 30% of the districts must have women leadership, right? That you can appoint. That's what we call being strategic about it. Yeah, since we're not electing them, like Mr. Kanye was saying, the law don't allow us to do that. Let's be more strategic about it. Let's try and put them in positions that we are able to do without law, and let people see women in these places, in these spaces of authority, and realize, okay, women can occupy these spaces. And then it will start to change mindsets at that ground level. But no, She came, she was just appointing social men in the thing, and we got know the reason why she was appointing Boston men, but we will not go there because Mr. Gaming wanted to go that side. But you just young boys, young
Jerome,
boys that
Jerome,
run around the place.
Jerome was on the appointment list. Jerome was on the list.
But if they told him to go meet somebody somewhere, he said no.
Yeah,
So at the
I
end of
wasn't
the
willing to be the president's son.
exactly. You say you go meet the one hotel, he said no. At the end of the day, she missed an opportunity to really shift our country in the right direction by taking the bold step of putting women at that low. Because look, there is no look change that is lasting has to be from the ground up,
Yeah.
right? You can't be
Yeah.
talking about, oh, we get ministers then that are women. No, it has to. People need to see in their districts, in their town. I remember when I did my research in Bombay County, I stayed in a town called Gaia Hill, and I will end on this. And even for someone who had lived in the UK for so long, and someone who had advocated for gender equality, someone who did purposive sampling to make sure half of my respondents were men and half were women. I went to Gaia Hill and found out that the clan chief was a woman. I was shocked. But that is that level. That is the area you want to be targeting. Because people like me would go there and see it. Imagine the people who live in there and seeing her on a daily basis. I can guarantee you their mindset will shift in terms of what positions women are supposed to occupy, and people will start to treat women, hopefully, slightly different or more different than we're doing now. But again, it's been a great show. Like I said, I like all of you guys tonight, apart from Tom, because he took my ball away. But yeah, it's been a great show.
It's all
We
right.
beg you, man. You know, like Thomas bag, we beg you before you leave.
No,
Mr. Duke,
I
Mr.
like you.
Duke.
If you stay all late tonight, you will not sleep good tonight. You stay all late.
That's right. That's right. Mr. Duke.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you to you, Mr. Gaiman, and to all my fellow panelists. I've been away for some time. I had some personal medical issues to deal with, and I think I'm on track, back on track. You know, for me, I've always advocated about education in Liberia, and I still believe that education is the only way that we can make a meaningful reform and changes in Liberia. And I've always said we should start it from the kindergarten level, from the nursery, from the daycares, because that's where you mold the minds of these young people that are going to be, men and women in the future. So when you start from there, I mean, it only take about maximum 2 generations for these things to start taking roots. And so we need a massive reform of our educational system. Again, I've always said here that we need to be in a space that reflects our new reality. Because right now, I don't think the 1986 constitution that we have reflect our new reality. There are a lot of things that need to be put in there that will reflect on our new Liberia, and so really my take on this domestic violence, that's just one angle of some of the changes that we need to have, you know, and I think Dr. Moody mentioned going to this town and seeing, a clan chief or parliament chief, whatever, being a female. That's how people relate to power. That's how people relate to changes. Because little girls will see that girl, that woman, that lady, and say, maybe I can be this. So that individual now represent the community in the eyes of the females that are there. And that's how you start tangible changes. Because, yeah, like you said, I mean, how many people see the minister of commerce, But if you have, you know, um, the commander of the detachment in whatever area, if it's a female, or the district education officer is a female, these are positions that deal with people at the lowest level in that vicinity, and so it will have resonance with the young girls who are seeing, female in those positions. But again, the orientation has to begin from that very, very early stage where you talk about what is proper, what is not proper, what is violent, what is, I mean, so that by the time they get to high school, they are fully prepared. They have absorbed all these things coming from nursery, elementary, and junior high. That's how we are going to make progress. But these, coming with these policies and all these papers, and they are good. But what good are they if we can see them implemented in real life? And I think that's where I also agree with Dr. Woody that Ellen Johnson Sirleaf missed a very important opportunity that was given to her to impact some of these areas. So I think we should not relent. Those of all who have the ability to speak out, we should not relent, and we should keep on talking about these things until such time that some of these changes can come to fruition.
Thank
Welcome
you.
back. But Jerome, wasn't
Yes.
this man's middle name at one time Waka? What happened to it?
No, everybody running from Waka now. If you're new Waka, you better change your Kanaka or something.
Actually, what is still my middle name is like Mr. Nagwe, just so you know.
Kana, go ahead, sir.
I mean, we started a show on the case with Sam Jackson. I think, like all of you said, he's someone that talks a lot and he prides himself. But when you are in a situation like this, it's good to step back. I mean, coming on social media to say to hell with everybody and all of that, it might be causing a lot of problem for himself. And like I said, he is a political figure. You never know when politics plays into this kind of thing. So now that I think a lawyer has been identified for him, I think I saw a photo with him with the former Solicitor General and team of lawyers. It's good for him to keep quiet so that his lawyers can take charge of the case. And we encourage the police to be able to investigate it professionally so that they can get to the bottom of it. Because, like we said, this is not an isolated case. It falls within a broader framework of gender issues in our country. You know, the other side of addressing gender and GBV is that we're spending a lot of money on solving this GBV problem. Over the past 20 years, there have been a lot of gender-based violence projects on awareness, on institutions. Now the Ministry of Gender has these safe homes because, for instance, when somebody is raped, they don't feel safe being in a community. You have to take them, you have to carry them to a place where they can feel safe until they can go through the case. And then after that, you have to reintegrate them and all of that. It's costing us a lot of money. I remember a couple of years ago, Bangladesh did a study on what share of the country's GDP was going towards either preventing gender-based violence or responding to gender-based violence, which was a considerable figure. So for instance, right now we have a project in Liberia that is funded by the World Bank, which is $44 million just to be able to change these gender norms that we are discussing here so that somebody can slap their wife because the food they cooked, the rice was not cooked correctly. The EU, for instance, has a second phase of the project they call Spotlight. I think the current one is around 13 million. So if you combine the Women Economic Empowerment Project and Spotlight, it's over $50 million for the next 3, 4, or 5 years that we're using. We're not talking about the investments that go to Criminal Code E that is meant to prosecute these cases, the Department and the Ministry of Justice. So if we can just change our cultural beliefs, if we can just change these gender norms that are letting us to do this, these are resources that we can use to improve electricity. We can use them to be able to build roads, to move them forward. But what I want to conclude on is what Dr. Budi said. Like I have always said, Madam Salif, the opportunity she missed was that when societies go or when countries go to war, after the war, when everyone is tired, that's the time to do fundamental reforms. It was after that civil war that we meant to have reformed our constitution. Tunisia did it. Somalia just adopted a new constitution when they are coming back to stability. Kenya did it. Not after civil war, after an electoral violence. There are many things that have changed since 1986. Decentralization, for instance, we didn't have that. Gender issues, the way we pay attention to them today is not what we had. The issue of AI and technology, digital evidence, they are all coming after the Constitution was adopted. So I think if we really need a progressive society, an inclusive society, the first thing we need to do is to go back to that Constitution, reform it. All those things that are in there, PRC, all those people are gone. We take it from there and we replace it with progressive things that can help us to move this country forward. Then we can be able to address all of the gender issues and other issues that we are meant to do to have an inclusive society.
Thank you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to be here with you. We spent the entire 2 hours on this particular topic. Not that the other topics are not important, but this one is so important. And I'm going to say this again because usually it touches a nerve when I say it. If you are in the mosque and your tradition of dealing with women is different, you got to change. If you are in the church, you remember when we were young, they said the president of the Baptist Convention that happened to have been the president of the Republic of Liberia, Dr. William R. Talbot. Every time you saw Vicky, she wore dark glasses. We heard there was domestic violence involved in his family because he was president of the country and leader of the Baptist Convention. All of those things were swept under the rug. Again, we're talking about religion here. We saw last year somewhere in Lofa County where a young lady was tabed. She was tied, her hand behind her so bad that it got on the front pages of basically all the newspaper because she was told to do something and she refused to do it. And the people from the Poorer Society decided that she has violated a norm that when the devil or the master speaks to you and you don't do it, you are disrespected, and they tied her behind. Her hand was so tightly tied that it made national news. So what I'm saying here is, you come from your Poorer Society, you bring your tradition into government. You come from your mosque, you bring your religious tradition into government. You come from the church, you call yourself a prayer warrior. You bring your tradition into government. So what I'm saying here, we have to dig a little deeper into our culture, our faith, our religion, our belief system, for us to address this women issue. Is not going away. We have to deal with how we deal with women. We need to talk to our boys. We need to talk to our girls. They too should have a limit of how far they can go with these guys. If you allow your boyfriend, because you love him, he's a superstar, he's on the basketball team, he's on the football team, so you allow him to get away with everything. When you get married, it's going to get worse. So women set yourself a limit as to how far you are willing to go. Don't let him push you. Don't let him put your hands on you. If he does that, you allow that to slide, you are signing your own death warrant to some degree. But ladies and gentlemen, it was nice meeting you. Let's do this again next week. Mr. Wallow, thank you very much for the beautiful articles. We will share them. I'm going to read them and catalog them. Thank you very much. And as always, we say, if we are here on Sunday talking about Liberia, we are all Liberian. We'll see you next week.
We are Liberian.